Thank you for coming out to hear my speech this evening from a time from your busy schedules. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the joke. Two elderly couples were enjoying friendly conversation when one of the men asked the other, "Fred, how was the memory clinic that you went to last month?" "Outstanding," Fred replied. "They taught us all of the latest psychological techniques, visualization, association, and made a huge difference for me." "That's great. What was the name of the clinic?" Fred went blank. He thought and thought, but he couldn't remember. Then a smile broke across his face and he said, "What do you call that red flower with the long stem and thorns? You mean a rose?" "Yeah, that's it." He turned to his wife. "Rose, what was the name of that clinic?" My name is Catoe, as most of you already know, and you also are aware that I'm an undergraduate student at Liberty University, and I graduate in May with my Bachelor's of Psychology, and I do plan to pursue a master's degree in the fall of 2012, where I'll also receive my Master's of Counseling. Just a little bit about my background and why I decided to do counseling is because I've studied it for the past 5 years, and I believe that it is a very important field in the sciences. And I've had a chance to work alongside with other doctors in a counseling facility, and that was one of my main reasons for wanting to go into private practice. I've had a chance to work in a neuroscience lab as well, where we conducted research with diabetic patients, running EEGs, prepping for EEGs, grip strength, and males that have aggressive issues. I am a member of 2 National Honor Societies as well, and during my internship I had a chance to work with children that had social issues in group therapy. And through that group therapy, we also incorporated their parents into it and taught the parents techniques that they could use at home to help the children with the techniques that we applied in our group therapy session. One of the main reasons that I decided to do this speech was because I feel that some people are not up to date on what counseling is and what all it provides and how much time it takes to get there, and how you can intertwine biblical theories along with psychological theories. To start off, my main point is that there's a great deal of education and training that goes into becoming a counselor. It's not just everyday average Joes that you see on the street and you just come talk to. These people are very well educated in what they're doing, and they have many years of practice to reach the level that they are at. To start off, you usually get a bachelor's degree of counseling or a bachelor's degree in psychology. Now, with a bachelor's degree, there's not really much you can do with that. It is nice to have a 4-year degree, and it does take 4 to 5 years to get the degree. But more than likely, unless you're assisting someone with a master's or someone with a doctorate, there's not really any type of one-on-one human communication that you can do with a bachelor's degree. So it is very important that you do decide to get a master's degree if you're serious about this occupation. And usually with a master's degree, it does take another 2 to 3 years. It does require intern hours, which is a really good thing, because when you start to work on your doctorate, you will also need intern hours, and it does look good on your resume. And it is really hard to get into a master's program because so many people are trying to get in, and they do have very high expectations for the people that come in. You're not allowed to score anything below a C, and if you do, you can only do that once. So everything that they do is very strict academically, and the expectations are very high. Along with getting a master's degree, after you have completed it, you can go to try to get your professional license to become a counselor. It is a standardized test that is presented to all people that want to become a professional counselor. And for you to work one-on-one with somebody, you do have to be licensed, and you do have to have field experience. But with a master's degree, you do still have to work under a doctor. So in order for you to work independently, it is important that you get your doctorate degree. With your doctorate degree in counseling or in psychology or something of that nature, You are able to be a professor at a university. You're able to run a university. You can be over a mental health facility instead of just working with a mental health facility. You're also able to conduct your own research. You do not have to work under another doctor. You do not have to ask for their approval. Since you are you have a doctorate degree, it is your right to conduct your own research as long as it is within the ethical boundaries of psychology. A lot of people think that you end your education after you receive your doctorate degree, but that's not so. You do have to take another 1 to 2, sometimes 3 years of field experience before someone will hire you. And usually you do that at the facility that will be hiring you. And it's also important to remember that we have counselors that are specialized in certain areas, and you can focus with that in school, but most of the focus comes after you get out of school and you work one-on-one under other doctors. An example would be when I worked at a private facility in Charlotte, North Carolina. We had people that dealt specifically with Asperger's syndrome in children, and he worked one-on-one with other counselors that wanted to specialize in Asperger's syndrome. The same thing for if you want to do a marriage counseling. You can't just jump in and say you specialize in marriage counseling. You do have to work with someone that has done marriage counseling, and it does have to be for an amount of time. Another thing that's also really important for people to remember is that research is constantly evolving and it's constantly going over. So once you are even out of school and you are specialized, you do have to stay educated on the updated research that is out and is available, because you do want what's best for your patients. Just a little bit of information on the pay scale that you receive from counseling. According to a man called Alvin, he said that the mean salary for counselors was around $64,000 a year in 2008, and with the mean calculated in, that is with the people with the highest and the people with the lowest. And then on another article that I read, and it was also a presentation at the APA, most people that just got out of doctorate school, their starting salaries, now this is after they have done their post-grad studies and they have a little bit of field experience, is between $50,000 and $70,000 a year. But if you look at the doctors that have been around for around 18 years and they have a little bit more experience, and these are the doctors specifically that work one-on-one with other people, their salaries are between $60,000 and $105,000 a year. And counselors that work full-time in a private practice, their average is $65,000 to $130,000 a year. So yes, these are higher incomes, but then you do have to take into consideration all the education that requires you to be a counselor. With that being said, I would like to move to my next point about who counselors work with, what they do, what they treat, techniques they can be involved, because a lot of people have the misconception that a counselor or a psychologist only deals with people with disabilities or disorders, and that's not true. Yes, they do focus with people that have schizophrenia, people that have anxiety disorders, dissociative disorders, paranoia, you know, the list goes on and on, substance abuse, gender and sexual related disorders. But the most everyday people that they deal with as counselors are average people that are having a hard time coping in their daily lives. Everyone knows that people go through a period of stress, especially during a time like this when the economy is bad, people are losing money, they can't find jobs, and it puts a lot of stress on the family, and some people are not able to cope with the stress and they do need the extra help. And sometimes the stress can advance and lead to anxiety and depression. I don't feel that there's anything wrong with saying that you need help or asking for help, because the techniques that psychologists can give you can teach you how to, they can teach you how to incorporate these techniques into your daily lives. An example would be if you are bipolar and you have manic episodes and you have depressive episodes, the psychologists can sit down and they can educate you on what your disorder is, and they can teach you what happens before the manic episode occurs. And they can teach you the skills that you need to deal with that manic episode. And everybody slips up from time to time, so if you are not able to incorporate the skills and you mess up, you do have a backup plan that is gone over with the psychologist. So they're there for you for all of your needs. You know, there's also behavioral patterns that they use. It's behavior modification programs and operant and classical conditioning. And all of these programs are used with everyday average people, and a minor piece of it is used with average individuals. Counselors cannot write medication. They do not have that ability in the majority of states, but they can refer you to a psychiatrist that can give you medications, or to your local doctor and say, hey, this is what I think about John Doe, and I feel that he needs to be put on a mood stabilizer. Together they'll work and figure out what's best for you. My last point that I would like to bring up, I feel is the most important part, and that's why I saved it for last, is that there are Christian counselors and there are regular counselors. I'm not going into the field of Christian counseling, but a lot of people do. But I don't believe that that leaves it a void to where I'm not able to incorporate Christian values and the values that God has for Christians into my workforce, into my daily life, and also into my sessions that I have with my patients. Now, I know that there are strict ethical guidelines that counselors must abide by when it comes to revealing your religion to patients. But if you have a patient that has no religion or has a different religion than you can still maintain your Christian morals and ethical values while dealing with that patient. And sometimes it might, the patient might say, well, you're different than me. And that would open the thing for you to say why, if you stay within the ethical boundaries. One of the quotes that I pulled out of my textbook from Alvin was, he believed that counselors must obtain sensitivity, compassion, good communication skills, and the ability to inspire others. I believe that those are all top qualities for counselors, especially counselors dealing with people that are having trouble and struggling spiritually. He also said that psychologists who are interested in direct patient care must be emotionally stable and mature and able to deal effectively with people. So I also feel that this is important, and in some of my classes I have learned that it is best for people that are going to be counselors for them to also enter into counseling themselves, because you do not want to portray your values and your problems onto that person. When you work directly with another person, you want it to be about them and what's the best outcome for your client. Like I said earlier, a lot of people do not believe that psychology and biblical theories can intertwine, and I do not believe that that is so. Now, while I said that, let me say this. I do believe that there are psychology theories and doctors that have done a lot of research and stuff like that that are not biblical. And most people, if you will do your research, they do not usually follow. The average counselor and psychologist do not really follow those people. They're kind of their own small clique. But it is important for people to understand that God's values are incorporated into psychological values. And an example that I would like to give you is God values mercy. In Lamentations 3:32, it says that though he brings grief, he will show compassion, so great is his unfailing love. I believe it is important for counselors to have a great deal of compassion for their clients, from the most severe clients to the least severe clients. You need to understand that this person came to you with a problem and they're entrusting in you for you to show them compassion and help them as much as possible. I also believe that honesty is a great value that God has, and that is incorporated into psychology a great deal. Our ethical code that you have to sign is all about honesty. We need clients to be honest about what they're feeling, what has happened, their past, their present, what they want for their future. And in that way we can incorporate techniques for you. It's also important as a clinician for me to be honest with you. If I feel that there's something I need to let you know, I want it to be accepted. And so I think integrity is important. And in 2 Corinthians 4, 1 through 2, the Bible says, we have renounced secret and shameful ways, and we do not use deception, nor do we distort the word of God. So you can see here that honesty is also important in biblical terms. Another one that I would like to give you is self-control. Counselors do, mainly ones that work with children or out of control people, or just average people. There's a lot of self-control issues that go on, and we do try to work with people that are having those issues, and we do try to stay calm, and we do try to teach them techniques. And in Galatians 5:23, it says, gentleness and self-control, against such things there is no law. And the last one that I would like to touch on, I believe, is one of the most important ones, and I believe it's one of the main reasons that people come to counseling is family. And we all know that God values family. And a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and a lot of problems that we have do come from family-related issues. We have parents that can't control their teens. We have marriage issues. There's brother-sisters issues. There's all types of family-incorporated problems. And in the Bible, in Psalms 127:3, it says, children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him. And I believe that is really important for counselors to remember, and everyday people to remember as they're going through their family issues. Just so you can understand how important family is and how much you will need them. And in closing, I just want to say that what we went over today was the amount of education that counselors do need, the training that they do have to experience, and the amount of years and hard work that is put into becoming a counselor. And not only that, the counselors do treat everyday average people, as well as they do treat people that have more severe disorders and disabilities. And there are techniques that are incorporated and that are worked with on various levels. Now, it is important for the client to remember that there will not be results overnight, and there will not be results within 2 sessions, and that sometimes it does take time for you to put away bad habits. And in closing, I would like to leave a quote from a man named Paul Valery, and he says, the purpose of psychology is to give us a completely different idea of the things we know best. So with saying that, I believe that the person knows best what they need, and that sometimes as counselors, it is just important for us to open up with them and teach them techniques and work with them to become the best person possible that they can. And with all of that being said, I would like to once again thank you guys for coming out to hear my speech, and I hope that you enjoyed learning about the counseling occupation. And if you have any questions, you can ask me in just a few moments.